Okay, so this one's going to be just a few more steps, okay, than what you were doing in the previous problem. It's not difficult. It's just keeping track of everything and understanding what it is you're trying to do, okay? So, step one. So I'm going to call it 1. What we want to do is we want to separate out 8 and u to the 21st power. So we're going to call it square root of 8 times square root of u to the 21. Okay, so that way what we can do is we can deal with the square root of 8 and deal with the square root of u21, and then at the end put it back together. Okay? This is going to be one video. The video that follows this will be a slightly different approach. Alright, so this is step 1. Okay? That's what we do. Step 2. We focus on the square root of 8. So I'm going to change the color so that we know we need to focus on this. The square root of u21 will remain here for the time being. Square root of 8. Remember, we need a perfect square, which I know is 4, and the remaining factor, which I know is 2. This is all square rooted. Times square root of u to the 21st power. Okay? Notice you're following along. You're just doing it according to your problem. Okay. I now know that square root of 4 times square root of 2 is a valid way to write this based upon the rule that we did in the previous problem. Okay? Square root of 4 I know is 2, and this is square root of 2 times square root of u21. Okay, so square root of 2 is now finished. Alright? So this was all step 2. Alright? All we did was we broke up 8 into a perfect square and a factor, and then simplified it down. That's it. So that is step 2. Let's move on to step 3. Step 3. Step 3 is now simply addressing square root of u21. So let's change the color sequence. 2 square root of 2 times square root of u21. Now here is the trick, and this is, you got to remember this, is you want the exponent to be an even number. Alright? So that when you take the square root, it just divides in half. Okay? Exponents be an even number. Basically, remember the rule, u to the m times u to the n would be u to the m plus n. Okay? So if I look at u to the 21, I know u to the 20 plus 1 is really u to the 21, right? And I also know that I can call this u to the 20 times u to the first power. Okay, so notice I'm not doing anything tricky here. I'm just simply using properties to solve this through. I'm going to bring this all the way up. And because of the property square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b, I'm just simply going to say this is the square root of u to the 20th power times the square root of u. Okay? Granted, 2 square root of 2 came down, and it just follows along. Okay? Because we're done with that part of the equation here, 2. Square root of u to the 20th power. Now remember, the square root of a number is really x to the 1/2. So if I had x squared square root, it's really x squared times 1/2, which means it's just x to the first power because the 2's will cross cancel each other, creating a 1. So what I'm going to have here is the square root, sorry, not the square root, we're going to have u to the 20th to the 1/2 times the square root of u. Well, what's half of 20? So you see why I want you to make sure that this number is an even number in the exponent, because then you just divide it in half. Well, the half of 20 is just simply 10, and times the square root of u. Excuse me. To square root 2 times u to the 10th times square root of u. So now what we're going to do is we're going to combine the square roots. Okay, so here's step 4. We're going to combine square roots and then put all the whole numbers, or the things that are not under a square root, to the front. So this is going to be 2 u10 square root of 2u. And that's it. So to backtrack that, it is simply taking the 2 and the u and putting them underneath the square root based upon this rule here. And it's taking the u to the 10th and the 2 and just pulling those to the front because they are now considered more of an integer. Okay? And so this is the 4-step process for solving this. It looks long, but each step contains several processes in it. Next video will be similar problem, but we'll be just using a slightly different process.